Hello, good evening, folks. You're welcome to another edition of Just Banter. My name is Habib Enyola. Tonight, we're supposed to have a guest on to talk about an ensuing drama, something that had been going on in Nigeria for quite a while. But unfortunately, due to technical issues, our guest will not be able to join us. He's a politician. He's a grassroots politician, as a matter of fact, who's on ground in Awka in Anambra State. And he would have given us a deep insight into some of the stuff that's going on, especially in eastern Nigeria, where the issue of the headsmen has become quite a challenge for everybody in the entire country. People are complaining in the north, people are complaining in the west, people are complaining in the south, and people are also complaining in the east. Unfortunately, there just seems to be no practical solution in view right now. Before we go on to the main issues for the day, we'd like to take this quick commercial break and we'll be right back. Good evening once again, folks. Now, Nigeria is a very dynamic country. Nigeria has vast land. Nigeria has a very huge population with over 200 million people. Now, you would wonder, with so many nations within Nigeria, how difficult, or should I say, how easy it is for Nigeria to be governed. A lot of factors are at play when it comes to the headsman issue, like we have all heard defense people have said. Now, if you happen to have watched the last live show, the last live stream that we had on a guest called Malam Yakubu Adoke, who happens to be a northerner, albeit from the middle part of Nigeria, which is the mid-north, so to speak. And he pointed out a couple of issues as regards the headsman. There are so many ways to look at it. You could start from the initial, trials, which is the issue of climate change. Now, the Chad Basin is where a lot of these people used to graze their cattle and all of that. But in the past 10 years, the size of the Chad Basin has reduced by over 60%. So a lot of the arable land that they used to have where the cattle could graze, they no longer have that. Coupled with the issue of the porous borders that you have. Yes, we know Nigeria has vast borders, but at the same time, it shouldn't be so bad that people can actually come into the country without that people are coming into the country. But that is what has happened. So a lot of people cross into the country and then they move around at will. Now, it becomes a bit more difficult when you look at the history and the background of the Fulani themselves. The Fulani are a nomadic, tribe or nation, so to speak, because the number close to 25, 26 million across the West African region, starting all the way actually from the Central African Republic all the way to Senegal. You have the Fulani spread all across. And in Nigeria, a lot of people do say Hausa Fulani. They do not realize that the Hausa are one nation and the Fulani another. And the Fulani are actually a minority in northern Nigeria as opposed to the general misconceptions. Now, a lot of this is all due to the issue of politics. The last show was actually titled Nigeria, Cattle, Politics, and Politicians. We actually had a reason for doing that. That was to try as much as possible to highlight where the initial problem was coming from. A lot of politics is at play. Too much politics, as a matter of fact, and you have to start to wonder why. Now, Nigeria has always had security issues, especially in recent times, probably because the country is under-policed. Now, you would wonder, if the country is under-policed, shouldn't there be a much more aggressive approach by the government to try to resolve that issue of insecurity across board? Well, unfortunately, that doesn't seem to be happening. What we have seen, as a matter of fact, is in recent times, probably yesterday, as a matter of fact, President Muhammadu Buhari, the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, reappointed the IG, whose tenure had expired, who was actually supposed to be going into retirement as of 3 days ago. Why would he do that if we have such deep issues in that country? Nobody knows. Nobody has any idea. Now, there's a lot of miscommunication between the government and the polity. A lot of people don't know what's going on. The president has two media spokesmen. One says one thing today, the other one says another thing tomorrow. As a matter of fact, you could have different headlines on the same day, both of them saying different things, to tell you how deep the issue of communication is between the government and the people. Now, where there's no communication, of course, people will throw caution to the wind and all sorts of rumors will take flight. And when rumors take flight, there's nothing anybody can do. There's no way to stop it. Why? Because there's no official position by the government. There's always a line of misinformation rather than a line of information. Unfortunately, that is not being addressed. So what we have is a hydra-headed problem. You also have the issue of the state governors. The governors have too much powers. How they came about those powers, it still beats my imagination, because when you look at it, you take a closer look at the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you look at the way the political structure is, you realize that the local governments are much, much more powerful than the state governments. The local governments are in charge of education, they're in charge of health, they're in charge of road infrastructure, they're in charge of so many other things. Now, all the allocation that's supposed to go to them is manipulated by the governors. The governors go so far as to try to control the state electoral commissions so that they can perpetuate themselves in power and try to manipulate the system as much as possible. They also manipulate the houses of assemblies in their states, because that's where the second tier of power is in a state government. This has caused so much problems in Nigeria. Once a month, there is a jamboree at the center in the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, where the commissioners of finance of each state go to the center to go and collect their own share of the federal allocation. One question needs to be asked: what do they do with all that money? You go to different states and you see the plethora of problems that are there. One thing, of course, that everybody seems to agree on is this: there's massive corruption in the country. But the one thing that they don't agree on, which is fundamental, is for each state, you do not have, quote unquote, a foreigner being either the governor or holding most of the top political offices. Yes, you do have a couple of states where you have non-indigenes being in public office, especially in a state like Lagos, where we've had the likes of Joe Igbokwe, who has been in the corridors of power in Lagos State since 1999, that's right, 1999, 2003, thereabouts. He's been there all through. He's been a commissioner, he's headed several parastatals, he's done quite a lot. He is a Lagosian. Now, according to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, if you live in any environment for 10 years, you have a right to claim that local government. But there seems to be too much division in Nigeria. A lot of political players try to play the ethnic card. What do? Today, it's a case of you're Yoruba, you're Hausa, you're Igbo, you're Ibibio, and they keep robbing Peter to pay Paul. Nobody takes responsibility for what they're doing. And this has led to so much division in the country. It's unbelievable. There were federal government colleges. I went to a federal government college. The federal government college were called unity schools. What they were supposed to do was to try to unite the country. If you came from the southern part of Nigeria, let's say the West, for instance, you were under obligation to take 2 other languages, because there were 3 major languages, apart from English was a lingua franca. So if you're from the western part of Nigeria, typically Yoruba, you will take Hausa and Igbo. If you are from the east, you will take Yoruba and Hausa. All this was meant to try to develop a deeper sense of unity in the country. But unfortunately, we are not seeing that. Today, we have all sorts of stuff coming up. You have Amotekun, which is a paramilitary force being developed by the Western region in Nigeria. Recently, we heard that there's the Eastern Security Network in the eastern part of Nigeria. And then you also have the militias up north, who incidentally came into much, much more prominence because of the Boko Haram, due to the challenges that the Nigerian armed forces were having in combating them. But what can we say? It all still goes back to the top, to the government of the day. Now, I don't know if the producers have a video of the IGP being reappointed. It's still a shock to me. I don't know if it's a shock to you, but let's take a look and see. So apparently this is probably the video of when he was initially sworn in as the IGP. But the president has reappointed him, even with all the noise people have been making over the fact that there's a lot of insecurity. The president recently appointed new service chiefs, new chief of defense staff, new chief of air staff, new chief of naval staff, and a new chief of army staff. And people thought, okay, so the next person to go is the IG. Probably he was finally listening to what was going on in the country and the loads of noise that people had to make. Well, unfortunately, it doesn't seem that that's the case, because why would you keep the IG under such circumstances? Why would you do that? But he has done it. He's given him under 3 months. Under 3 months to do what particularly, you might ask? Well, nobody knows. Like we said earlier on, a lot of lack of communication, or should we say miscommunication? Because even though they seem to be talking, nobody seems to understand exactly what it is that they're saying. Now, in the event that you do not understand the depth of this, Nigeria is a beautiful country that has had a very, very long and rich history. Nigeria, as far back as 1956, when you look at Eastern region of Nigeria, there was a mayor in 1956 for Enugu, and his name was Alhaji Umaru Altide. He was from the Sokoto province. As a matter of fact, he was initially a one-time Secretary General of the Zikist movement. Before he now ran, or was nominated to run for mayor on the platform of the NCNC, he ran, he won. When his tenure was expiring, he was asked to step aside so that a local indigent from the Eastern region could take over and become the mayor. But his supporters said no, and they told him to pull out of the NCNC and run as an independent candidate. He did run as an independent candidate, and he did win. That's to tell you the depth of the unity that was in the country as of that time. People looked at you and people recognized and appreciated the fact that you were an honest, upstanding citizen of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It didn't matter where you came from. Pre-1966, the civil service of the Northern region, most of the senior officers in the civil service, were actually from Eastern Nigeria. As a matter of fact, even in recent times, when I say recent times, I mean 2005, 2006, 2007, you had people from Eastern Nigeria who were serving as political office holders in Northern Nigeria, as councillors and all that kind of stuff. So things were still manageable to a certain extent. But what do we have in truth? Heavy disunity. You have the Headsman Menace. The Fulani mostly are peaceful, loving people. But in recent times, they've been given a badge. And that badge is Headsmen Bandits. Or should I say bandits, headsmen. A lot of these people, like we said, if you had gotten the background in the initial, are actually not from Nigeria. But unfortunately, you have an association called the Miyeti Allah, Cattle Breeders Association of Nigeria, MACBAN. MACBAN is supposed to protect the interests of cattle rearers. It's supposed to be their union, their association. Now, MACBAN is supposed to out and out call an act of criminality. But unfortunately, there seems to have been an ethnic sentiment thrown into the works. So they are not speaking out as they should. They are not condemning these issues as they should. That is what is driving the rift further and further and further. 4 years ago, there was a news report. We'll show you that news report. And then you can see that this matter of the headsman needs to be addressed, but it doesn't need to be addressed along ethnic lines. It doesn't need to be addressed along religious lines. It needs to be addressed objectively. A criminal is a criminal regardless of where the criminal is from. A criminal is a criminal regardless of whatever religion he practices, regardless of whatever profession he is. Now, our producers should give us the video in a very short while. We'll be right back. So there seems to be a technical issue there. We don't seem to have any sound. So probably they will let us know when the video is ready, because there seems to be no audio, and there was no audio in the first video as well. So probably we'll be having some deep technical issues today, especially from the Nigerian end. That's why our guests could not join us. Part of the things that we're talking about. The things that are supposed to be basic, the things that are supposed to be readily available for people to be able to be productive, they are not there. And these issues are not being addressed as they should be addressed. Electricity is a problem. So you can't produce on the scale at which you should for a country of over 200 million people. In this day and age, people work from different parts of the world providing services. So you can even export your services from wherever you are. The population of Nigeria, 60% of them are below the age of 35. So there are tons of them that could actually export their services to the rest of the world, but they can't do that because of bad internet service. As a matter of fact, we have several gone through those challenges. It costs an average family about $2,000 to provide electricity for themselves in a month. That's a lot of money. That is a lot of money. So, okay, the producer said the audio is back, so we'll play that video for you and we'll be right back. Okay, sorry, it seems like the audio, we still have to challenge the internet challenge from Nigeria. So apparently this is going to be a very short show because there's so many issues to be discussed, but it would have been much, much better to be able to discuss it with somebody else. For people who are on ground to be able to say something about it. But as we were saying, where were we? Now, the issue of this headsman. A couple of weeks ago, a politician, a youth wing leader from one of the political parties, his name is Sunday Igbo, from Western Nigeria, or your states particularly, came out and gave an ultimatum to the headsmen saying that they had to go. Why did they have to go? Because they were destroying farms. There was a lot of crime in that area. People were being raped, houses were being razed and burnt, farms were being razed as well. So they came out and said, you know what, you people have to go. Unfortunately, the state government did not speak out, probably because if they spoke out, they would give validation to Sunday Igbo. But also the federal government did not speak out. And when I say the federal government, I mean the security forces. They should have taken some action. They should have said something, but they did not. And eventually, something did happen. So there was a lot of loss of property, loss of life. We have no report of that, but it's probable that something like that has happened. Then also, something in the east also came up, in the eastern parts of Nigeria. There was a video making the rounds. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll be able to screen that video because of how gruesome it is, and because animal rights could come after us and say, you're actually supporting this by airing it. So, pretty gruesome, pretty terrible. A lot of animals, a lot of cattle were slaughtered in that video. It was unbelievable what we saw, but we did see it. And it seemed like it was more of an ethnic issue than an actual criminal issue being tackled because of what was being said in the audio of the video. So these things are beginning to take a deep, deep ethnic element. And it's time that the federal government, the state governors, and even the people themselves started to stand up against this, because I have friends from all over Nigeria, probably because I went to unity schools, but also in the university. And I don't think at any point in time, the issue of where you came from was the subject matter. In most cases, it was a case of who you are as an individual rather than where you're from. But unfortunately, as we are now, as a people, we see each other pointing fingers. Yes, there are deep disagreements, but should we have disagreements on the level of ethnicity or religion? Should we actually descend as far as not talking to each other simply because we disagree on these issues? As a people, you're supposed to disagree to agree. You're supposed to be able to meet halfway so that you can resolve the issues that are on ground. But what we see is a deep polarization. People that are highly educated pointing fingers. We see the old guard continuously using ethnicity and religion to hold on to power and further divide the nation for their own selfish interests. It's time for the young people to start asking themselves questions and saying, excuse me, this is not the way Nigeria should be run. It's time for them to say, we need to have change, the type of change that we actually deserve, not the type of change that they think Nigerians deserve. Because Nigerians don't deserve to go through what they're going through, especially considering the vast amount of human, mineral, and land resources that Nigeria has. We should not have 1/1,000,000th of the problems that we have as a nation. It's unfortunate, but that is the reality. That's what's going on. So it's time for people to start coming together. It's time for people to shove their petty differences aside and say, you know what? We need to deal with this matter. Now, unfortunately, the politics is not just within Nigeria. The politics is external as well. But what most of these other nations who are keeping quiet and are not dealing with their side of the issue, what they do not realize is this. Nigeria is the largest nation in West Africa. If Nigeria is destabilized, then that means the entire Western region, Western Africa is destabilized. You're going to have a huge spillover of Nigerians into different countries. And then you're going to have to deal with things that you ordinarily should not even be bothered to think about in the first place. Chad needs to do something about their borders. Yes, we understand that they do have issues with the Lake Chad region. We know Niger too also has some issues as well. But those countries need to take some responsibility for what they're doing. Cameroon, we know to a large extent, is trying its best, especially considering the Boko Haram issue. And they're trying as much as they can to collaborate with the Nigerian armed forces to try to eliminate the Boko Haram terrorists. But unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be enough. They all need to start taking responsibility. They all need to try to make sure that they do not contribute to the problems that already persist in Nigeria. Rather, they try to stem it as much as possible so that Nigeria does not run into anarchy. It's a deep issue. If you have any comments, please send them in. Let's have discussions around this because as far as I'm concerned, it's a matter that concerns everybody and people need to talk about it. People need to express themselves, share their opinions so that others can hear them speak. But they need to speak in an objective manner for there to be a solution to the issues that are on ground. We have seen nations like Rwanda go into ethnofratricide and we saw what has happened. It is something that they will never get out of. No matter what they do, as much as they try to unite their country, it is going to be something that is never going to be wiped away. And here we are sponsoring militias, sponsoring regional militias. War drums are beating, that's what it means. And something that everybody needs to be careful. Everybody needs to take serious precautions against. Nigeria is too large a country to go into anarchy. Once it does, then there's going to be a major problem all over the world. All over the world, there are going to be major problems. We'll be right back shortly after this. Thank you. Hello once again. Like we said earlier when the show started, due to the technical difficulties that our guests had, this is going to be a rather short episode of Just Banter because this is an issue or a topic that we would not want to just wish away. This is a topic where we would truly like to bring somebody on to come and discuss with us, somebody from the eastern region of Nigeria who is on ground, who understands what's going on, who is also vested in the politics of the eastern region. Because a lot of stuff has been coming out of the eastern region and a lot of people all over Nigeria are a bit concerned about it. Least of all, the people that think that the law of the land should be upheld. We've seen videos of the Eastern Security Network. They're armed, just like the militias in Western Nigeria, armed. Just like you see the headsmen, armed. All this should be termed as illegal arms and ammunition. Do they have licenses for it? Obviously not, because under the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, you can have sidearms, you can have assault rifles. As a private citizen, you can only have shotguns. And those shotguns, rigorous process of licensing before you can get them. But we have seen where a lot of bandits actually have heavy ammunition, so much so that they can outshoot the Nigerian police force in some cases. It's very worrisome. Nobody seems to be safe. For those who are in political power, who move around with 20 armed policemen, 30 armed policemen, you can't be in power forever. So if you're not taking note now, you're not doing something now. When you're out of power, what happens? You become an ordinary citizen. Maybe at best, if you can still maneuver, you can still handle it. You're probably going to have maybe one or two armed policemen to escort you. But is that going to save you? It's not, because the more arms are being proliferated, the more illegal arms are in circulation, then the higher the crime rate. Do Nigerian policemen have insurance? I don't think so. Life insurance particularly. I doubt it. So they're not going to die for me. They're not going to die for you. They're going to do their job to the best of their ability. But when they realize that you are also a deep cause of that problem, they're probably not going to want to put their lives on the line for you. So this is a message that needs to be passed all around. We need to tell the people that are our friends, people that you know on a one-on-one. For a country that is under-policed and that one particular person has such a large retinue of the security forces, then what happens to the rest of the country? They also have relatives. Those relatives don't have the security. The issue of kidnap has been massively on the rise. People are kidnapping even their family members for petty ransom money. That is the true state of the nation. And the only reason why that is happening is bad governance, whether we like it or not. Bad governance is an issue all over Africa, we know that. But in some African countries, it's unbelievable what you see and what you have. If the Nigerian people do not ask themselves for accountability, Nigeria can never improve, it can never change. Nobody from outside Nigeria is going to come and change Nigeria. It's only Nigerians that can change Nigeria. Or is it a case of Nigeria needs new Nigerians? Is that the possible solution? Because sometimes something as drastic as that is what is needed to actually turn a bad situation around. You can't make the best out of a bad situation. It's a bad situation. Nigeria is in a bad shape. There are tons and tons of Nigerians in the diaspora who want to come back to Nigeria, but they cannot. No sense of patriotism is going to make them risk their lives and risk the lives of their family members to come to Nigeria, to come and settle again. And they have so much to contribute. They send home much more money than the oil revenues every year. And there's still no security. Okay, our producer is saying that the videos from the Eastern Security Network are available. So we'll play that for you and we'll be right back after that. Well, it seems unfortunately that the internet connectivity issue still persists. But now, if you take a closer look at the images that are in front of you, you actually notice that these guys are actually holding some heavy arms and ammunition. Some even look like rocket launchers from what I can see. I'm not sure if they're fabricated or not. I've never been in the military. I've never been in the paramilitary. I've never handled guns, so I have no idea. But still, weapons are weapons, and those look pretty dangerous to me. And they actually look like they're going through a drill of some sort. What that basically means is that they're getting really, really cohesive. They're getting proper training, well, to a certain extent. And a lot of things are actually going to happen if the government does not take effective measures as of this point. You have that going on in the east. You also have that going on in Western Nigeria. And then you also have the headsmen running amok, carrying AK-47s. Those are deadly assault weapons. The AK-47 is probably the most popular assault weapon in the entire world. It's a weapon that never goes out of fashion. It's a weapon that never malfunctions. So where are they getting these weapons from? And how are they getting them into the country? A lot needs to be done. A lot needs to be looked into. And the government has to do something. Pretty quick. Pretty strongly. For them to be able to handle what is going on. Even if you can't wipe it all away, at least try and do something to stem it a little bit. Especially the issue of the headsman. It's becoming dangerous. Not that it's becoming a dangerous issue. It is polarizing the entire nation. And of course, even if the president says, I'm not backing them because I'm Fulani, I'm not backing them at all, people do have that impression because he's not saying anything particularly about it. A criminal is a criminal, regardless of tribe, ethnicity, or religion. So they need to speak up. They need to take effective measures to secure the lives and properties of Nigerians. They need to let Nigerians know that they are safe being in Nigeria as Nigerians. It's about time. If the president has something to say and his media team are not able to say something the way it should be said, maybe it's time he actually looked at those ones too and told them, you need to take the door. And then bring in a fresh pair of hands. If he's not going to do that, and his media team know that they cannot handle their jobs, they can always outsource some parts of it. Get some help. Nigerians need to know what is going on. They deserve to know what is going on. So at least there can be some calm. Everybody is worried. Everybody is fretting. Nigeria should not be the type of country where people who are not educated, people who are not in a position to speak for their people should be the ones speaking. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not talking about paper education. I'm talking about being exposed enough to understand and strike a balance when it comes to dealing with other people. Religion-wise, tribe-wise, and race-wise. Nigeria is too sophisticated a country for that. So it's time we all started speaking up, wherever you are in the world, whether you're at home in Nigeria or you're abroad. It's time to speak up and say, no, things have to change. We really, truly need to work on it. So we're going to go right now. But before we go, we always do what we do, which is we talk about our social messages. Part of the crime issue. And one that we always talk about first is always the issue of rape. It's a pandemic and it needs to be dealt with. We cannot have women and children being molested, their lives being destroyed, simply because some people have a whim. It's time to say no to rape. It's time to say no excuse for rape. You can use either of the hashtags on the screen. Please say something about it. Please support this campaign. Let's continue to drive it for as long as we can till we actually, as much as possible, eradicate the issue of rape. We need healthy women. We need healthy children in our societies. And don't forget, even the aged are vulnerable. So we have to look out for both our children, our women, and our parents as well, to make sure that they do not fall prey to mindless criminals who decide to molest and degrade people. It's a humanitarian issue. Please use the hashtag. Please say something about it. Show your support for the campaign against rape. COVID-19 is killing an unbelievable amount of people. Yes, we heard that there are vaccines out now. A couple of people have taken vaccines. Some have told us about their experience in taking the vaccines. But we have also been told at the same time that the safest way for us to live our lives at this moment is to still wear masks. So please, whether you're in a public space, public transport, or just mucking about, as much as possible, please try to wear a mask. Wash your hands as often as possible and try to maintain the 1 meter social distance so that as soon as possible we can go to, if not normal, near normal. It's time to get rid of COVID-19, and we only can do it if we work together to get rid of COVID-19. Thank you for taking out the time to join us again, and we hope you join us on Saturday for the new show on Saturday called The Shower Hour. Pretty interested, and I'm sure it's going to be pure fire. It's all about life and relationships, and I'm sure everybody has issues when it comes to life and relationships. It's time for us to start working on it. Oh, okay. So our guest actually sent in a comment. So I'll just put the comment on screen before we go. So those weapons you see are real weapons. The Fulani terrorist group have just about the same caliber of weapons the ESN have. This is as a failure on the part of the government to protect the lives and properties of the people they sought to protect. But what do we have happening in the country? So sorry to say that the government has failed woefully. We will still be working on bringing Uche Orugbo into the studios at some later date to come and have a conversation with us about the Eastern Security Network, the issue of Biafra, and also the issue of the Headsmen. Pretty soon, I'm sure, we should be able to reschedule and get him on screen to say something about the entire issue. So we thank you very much. We hope you have a great and fantastic weekend ahead. But don't forget, join us 11 p.m. on Saturday night. Yes, it's a show for adults, as in the real adults. It's a show for adults. It's about life and relationships. It's going to be a fantastic one. The host of the show, well, I'm co-hosting as well, but the host of the show, Catherine, I'm sure you would love to hear her speak. She has quite a lot to say about life, and she has quite a lot of insight as well into life. So we hope to see you there, and we hope to see you on Sunday as well for the next edition of Just Banter. You have a great evening. Good night. Thank you.